Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we're going to do another deep dive into the past and future box. But before we get into that, I just want to welcome everybody to the channel and especially all the new subscribers. What a humbling experience. We have quite a few new subscribers, and I just wanted to take the time and say thank you. I really appreciate that. And I hope you enjoy all the content that I put out. And welcome. So, before we get into any of the past and future box, I also wanted to say we have upcoming boots on the ground in 6 days. So, that's going to be exciting. It's for the Appalachian Trail box, and everything has been set in motion. And we are going to go boots on the ground in just 6 days. So look out for some possible teaser videos on that and the actual hunt itself. I won't be going live because I don't know how my reception is going to be out there, but I will be posting videos of the boots on the ground, possibly multiple videos depending how long it goes. And you never know, maybe we'll find the box. That would be great. Also, we have a special boots on the ground the week after that. So the weekend of July 11th, 12th, and 13th. That's going to be a surprise. It was sort of a last minute call. So look out for that one. That's going to be really exciting. And there'll be more on that soon. And one other thing, there's another treasure hunt, which is not as big as the one we're focusing on now, but it's called Find It Fort Wayne. And I just learned about it. It's dropping today, actually. I'll put a link in the description for the Discord and the Facebook link as well. But being it's pretty close to where I live, you never know. I might just get into that one too, and we may even do a video on it. So, without further ado, we're going to step into the past and future box. Now, I know last time we said that we're going to go into the word search and the cryptogram, but I wanted to give a different perspective first on what we're really looking for in this chapter. Excuse me. So, like I said before, this was a really intimidating chapter for me. There was a lot of components to it, and the whole word search, this looked very complicated to me. So after thinking a little more and reading some more and really analyzing this chapter, I think I wanted to pose a different possible approach to it, which I think you might find interesting. You may not agree, and I may not be totally sold on it myself, but it does deserve attention, and it could really affect the way you not only look for this box, but future boxes as well. So let's get into that. We're going to go over each of the sections once again, but from a different lens. So stay tuned. Good stuff's going to come throughout this video, and I hope you enjoy it. So this is the first section once again. We're going to break it down a little bit. Before we talk about clues, we need to talk about the box itself. Not just what's inside it, but how it's made, where it came from, and why its very design holds meaning to it. Because this is just isn't a container, it's a message. It's built from steel, brass, and memory, forged to reflect something, maybe even a state of gold. This section gives you a rich, layered origin story. It's who made it, what it's made of, how it feels, and where it came from. Every detail feels grounded and descriptive, but several phrases carry some literal weight. He says, inviting sunny day, surface of the moon, 5 steps. JCB offers no external references you need to follow, only metaphors and imaginary imagery meant to prepare you for how the box uh, is set up. The inclusion of Seth Gold lends artistic credibility to it, but is not, I don't think, is required for the search. The real treasure in this section really lies in learning how to read between the lines. When JCB describes an object, he's often describing an idea. And that's how we're going to really sort of look at this moving forward. So let's see how that applies to the Bitcoin and NFT section. So JCB shifts gears from the intro, talking about the box, and he introduces something that feels like it comes out of left field. Bitcoin and NFTs in this section. He describes it as a digital asset, a secret key, a coin you can't even spend unless you know how to unlock it. And here's the thing, he's not just describing what's in the box. I think he's teaching you how to think about the clues that he put in this chapter. Decentralized, hidden, encrypted. Excuse me. So, Bitcoin, right? It's a digital asset created to be used in a world of technology and AI. Bitcoin is a digital currency, decentralized and created by an anonymous creator. It's also tied in with technology and AI. The year of origin he talks about is 2009. Now, if you were to go ahead and Google Bitcoin or AI or decentralized ledger, and you would probably fall into a research spiral. But none of that is really required to understand the core concept that JCB is conveying. This treasure box links the future of money to cutting edge technology. This section really sets the tone of the treasure. It's futuristic, valuable, decentralized. That can influence your understanding of the theme of the box's location, possibly. Near a tech hub, maybe, symbolic place of innovation, but it doesn't really supply a literal clue. He goes on to saying the particular coin produced from gilt silver with a quality rating of 68 out of 70. The Cassius coin were the first physical Bitcoins, he points out. He said this one is loaded. It's gilt silver and has a MS 18 or 68, I'm sorry, out of 70. If you look up Cascacious coins online, you would find they have a unique serial number that's visible. First bits, the few letters of the Bitcoin address. Some of these have been mapped to specific Bitcoin addresses. The physical coins may point you to possible geological hints if manipulated. QR codes, public addresses, things like that. Here's where your question really comes critical. Does JCB expect us to research the Cascacious coins online to decode something? I think the answer to that is not necessary. He gives us everything essential. He tells us the coin's rarity, the material, the rating, the MS68. He even stops short of giving the actual coin serial number or address, but I'm sure it's on purpose, right? These details could be metaphorically connected to location-based clues in the chapter, maybe using a riddle of some type. But again, you don't need to go online to solve this chapter. And that's the point I'm trying to find out here. The NFTs. It's an optional technological bonus awaiting you in the future. This line is almost meta commentary. It speaks about future ownership, digital authenticity, and performance. It even acknowledges that JCB doesn't trust current providers enough to issue NFTs now. Again, researching NFTs really won't help us with this solve, I don't think. But understanding their physiological idea, digital proof of ownership, might enrich your interpretation of what proof, claim, or future means in the different parts of this chapter. So, bottom line, in this section, JCB names specific objects, right? Bitcoin, Cassius coins, NFTs. They have real world histories and external references, but he also includes all the core information needed about them directly in the text. If you were to explore more, you might find some context, metaphor, or flavor, that strengthens your interpretation. But you're never forced to rely on outside data to complete the solve, I don't think. The references act more like mirrors. They reflect the chapter's theme, the theme of technology, value, and the future, rather than maps pointing to external clues. And just when you think the clues are getting too complex, he brings up the book Ready Player One, a futuristic game built from the past. Klein's world isn't just digital, it's nostalgic. And JCB lets us know that's nostalgic. Simple meaning, simple memories wrapping in a complex world. This is exactly how his treasure hunt works. He goes, I would often look at our futuristic style treasure box. Its surface would, reflect a state of gold. This treasure box is futuristic and gold-like. It's a literal item, but also it evokes themes of the future, reflection, and value. You might wonder, is State of Gold a metaphor for California, the Golden State? Or is it suggesting sunlight or even philosophical value, what's truly worth seeking? This section feels very poetic. JCB may be setting up some metaphorical use, some metaphorical clues, if you will. Reflection, state of gold, sunshine. But you don't need to look up everything to parse the symbolism. Outside research could tempt you into overreading, confirmation bias territory, right? But the core message is in the imagery itself. He goes on to say then, seeing this sleek box made me think of Ernest Cline. And then he references Ready Player One. So in this section, JCB name drops a real world novel, right? Ready Player One. He explicitly calls it a great book, and he even says he recommends reading it. He summarizes a core story and the treasure hunt mechanic that's inside the book. Now you could go ahead and read or reread, if you already read it, Ready Player One. And you might study the three-gate structure or the importance of 1980s nostalgia that's inside that book. You might even Google Easter egg riddles in Ready Player One. But again, you're not required to do so. Everything relevant in understanding the parallel that he's drawing is already summarized in the chapter. He did it for you. He said in Ready Player One, Halliday has placed a set of clues. That's the character in the book. He said it leads to a digital Easter egg. A treasure hunt built within a massive system, Oasis. The clues are hidden. The clues are solvable by those who understand specific cultural framework, which are the 1980s pop culture. Klein embedded clues using old arcade games, movies, songs, extensive deep cut references. Knowing this, As a reader of the book, you might assume that JCB did the same with his own childhood preferences. But here's the key. JCB isn't saying go look up 80s stuff. He is literally saying, I admire Klein's method, but I did it my own way. If you read the book, you know that Ernest Cline smartly weaves a tapestry of 80s references. Yet the path is constructed through simple nostalgia. The central lesson of this is simplicity wrapped in complexity. While the world of Oasis is futuristic and huge, the solution comes from humble, nostalgic, personal elements. You don't need a huge tech background or massive amounts of research, I don't think. What you do need is to think like the author, just like you need to think like Halliday in Ready Player One. JCB tells us that the clues may seem futuristic or complex, like the Bitcoin or the NFTs, but the actual path to solving them may lie in his childhood memories, personal loves, or symbolic simplicity. Just like Cline did in his book. In this section, JCB uses Ready Player One as a philosophical parallel, not as a clue source. He includes all the necessary context in the chapter, even for readers unfamiliar with the book. The purpose is to show how a seemingly high-tech treasure hunt can have roots in personal nostalgia, symbolism, and emotional meaning. Any outside exploration of Cline's work is entirely optional and potentially could be too distracting if taken too literally. So JCB is encouraging you to think about how his own personal passions, possibly subtle and analog, may form the structure of his clues. I think JCB draws a parallel but sets a clear boundary. Seeing the sleek box made me think of Ernest Cline. It's a great book and I highly recommend it. JCB is taking aim himself with the aesthetic, emotional feel of Ready Player One, but quickly draws the line. He's not copying, he's inspired. This is a classic literary device, referencing something popular to provide a mental scaffolding, then differentiating your own method. Even though the clues for each box are self-contained, in part 2, our interpretations of the clues is still highly susceptible with confirmation bias. The more confident we are in our theory, the more likely we are to subconsciously bend the meanings of poetic lines, maps, or numbers to support that theory, especially in a book that rewards lateral metaphorical thinking. Which brings us full circle to the real games. Not flashy, not complicated, just a word search and a cryptogram in the back of the chapter. But in those simple puzzles borrowed from the childhood afternoons and grandparents' routines, JCB may be hiding his most important message of all. You do not need to be a genius to solve this. You just need to know where the past meets the future. This section really anchors the treasure hunting experience with childhood logic games, family memories, and simple analog puzzles. While JCB references Ready Player One's 80s games, and his grandparents' habits, none of that requires outside research. Instead, it serves as your guide to your mindset. Look for simple games, puzzles from the past. You're being told exactly what the puzzles are. The puzzles are a word search and a cryptogram, and even given instructions on how to approach them. External references are decorative and emotional, but not directive. The clues are self-contained, and the solve is meant to feel like a family puzzle night, not an elite hacker mission. So here's the takeaway. Understanding the role of outside references in JCB's chapter. Across these 4 sections we just talked about, JCB introduces real-world references: Bitcoin, Ready Player One, Treasure Box, and classic childhood games, but consistently reminds us that the solve itself is self-contained within this chapter. What these references offer isn't external information to be researched or decoded elsewhere, but rather a framework for how to think. The design of this treasure box, he talks about, crafted by Seth Gold and described in rich detail. This teaches us what appears sleek and futuristic may be hiding something traditional. This primes us to expect metaphorical steps and tactile style logic in the solve. The Bitcoin and the Cassasius coins illustrate that the treasure contains futuristic value, wrapped in a tangible form. You don't need to study the Bitcoin mechanics. You don't need to understand concepts like hidden keys, value stored in plain sight, and layers of meaning. Then we have Ready Player One. It isn't a clue source, I don't think. I think it's a metaphor for how clues can be embedded in personal memory and nostalgic simplicity. Klein used 1980s pop culture. JCB uses his own childhood games, simpler, humbler, and more personal. Word searches and cryptograms aren't just puzzles. They're clues wrapped in JCB's personal history. Instead of complexity, he emphasizes accessibility, fondness, and the kind of thinking passed down from generation to generation. You're not meant to solve this by being a researcher, I don't think. You're meant to solve this by being curious, a patient thinker, someone willing to step into the author's shoes and see the world through his lens. This takeaway is simple, but it's really powerful. Everything you need in this chapter, outside references, are not roadmaps. They're mirrors. They reflect the mindset you need to unlock what's already right in front of you. You know, JCB says these clues for each box are in their respective chapters, and I agree 100%. But things like the intro to part 1 and the postscript, they aren't really clues for the boxes. They're overreaching guidance. They're a mindset framing, for safety considerations and the hunt as a whole. I think ignoring them just because they aren't in part 2 would be like ignoring the rules of the game before you start. They're part of understanding how to approach the hunt, not where to look. Things like dangerous places, etc. I want to thank you for sticking around to the end. This may not be a traditional way of looking at this chapter, but moving forward, if you are curious about this, I'll be applying it to this chapter and also to the word search and cryptogram coming up in later videos. So I encourage you, stick around. This is going to be a really exciting chapter, I think. What started off for me as an intimidating chapter and one I really wanted to stay away from has really wrapped me in now that I have a different perspective on it. And I hope it wraps you in too. And I hope you get some type of value out of this video. Thank you again. And don't forget, boots on the ground, 6 days, and then the weekend after, a bonus boots on the ground. That's going to be exciting. And don't forget the other one, and don't forget Find at Fort Wayne. As I get more information, I'll share it with you, but I will share the link in the description. Thank you again, and you have a wonderful weekend.